let's get to the comedy that is the fact that the Oakland Raiders can still make the playoffs.
Yeah, do you want to read through the scenario? You want me to? Because the 7-8 Raiders still have a chance.
The 7-8 Raiders can clinch a wild card spot with a win, and a Pittsburgh loss, and a Tennessee loss, and an Indianapolis win. But that way, the Raiders will clinch strength of victory tiebreaker over the Steelers. It's pretty chaotic. Their biggest problem, I think, comes with the fact that they need Pittsburgh to win Pittsburgh to lose rather against a Ravens team that's resting everybody because they clinched.
Yeah, I think because these next 3 games we're going to break down are going to be those, right? So Raiders, Broncos, Steelers, Ravens, and then Titans and Texans. Maybe we should go in reverse order that I listed, just because Tennessee completely controls their own destiny. The Steelers control their destiny a little bit less, and then Raiders control their destiny least of all.
All right, so let's talk, Tennessee, Houston, because this is quite interesting given they played each other a couple of weeks ago, given how that matchup went, and as you say, they actually control their own destiny. They just need to win.
All right, so let's do that. So Titans at the Houston Texans. Titans win and they're in, and they've got Hall of Famer Ryan Tannehill leading the charge. That game a few weeks ago, it was just weird, right? I mean, there was just quirky plays on both sides, red zone and end zone interceptions for both quarterbacks. A Tannehill one that probably should have been a touchdown. Yeah, Carlos Hyde was kind of the catalyst for the Texans. Just an odd game all around.
The Titans went 14-0 down and should by rights have been 7-0 up based off the bounce of a ball. So now it was a good defensive play. You know, somebody came in and jarred the receiver, basically popped the ball up, interception, taken back almost to the house. So it's not like it was just a complete fluke, lucky play. It was a good defensive play that prevented that being a touchdown and turned it into a pick. But 9 times out of 10, that pass is caught. The tight end ends up barreling his way across the plane, and we were talking about a touchdown here. Certainly wasn't an interception that you put on Ryan Tannehill, but that game just went weird to start, and then the Titans almost dragged their way back to a win, but couldn't get it done in the end.
Yeah, and the Titans are coming off a game against the Saints, which was, hey, they were in control, then they...
Equally weird, just in a different direction.
Right. I mean, they bust their own coverage, and it's a 67-yarder to Jared Cook, and before you know it, they're struggling to stop the pass. They've just been so beat up in the secondary that, Tremaine Brock starting last week and LaShawn Sims in that secondary, where normally they're trotting out guys like Malcolm Butler, who's out for the season, or Dory Jackson, who's been hurt. And they're trotting out this pretty good secondary that in any given week can match up. And I think, trying to figure out who the Texans are has been a struggle, but at their best, it's Nuke and a healthy Will Fuller. Even he's had his own injury issues, but Duke Johnson out of the backfield, a couple tight ends to throw to, and it's this really difficult offense to defend. But we've only seen it a few times. But it's again another one of those teams. In any given week, you could see the Texans spreading the ball around and creating efficient offense behind Deshaun Watson, who again at his best is one of the best in the league.
I think everybody keeps waiting for the Ryan Tannehill, the wheels to fall off that wagon. What's kind of scary is that he's actually playing better recently. Like, he's got 3 out of the last 5 games have a PFF grade over 90. One of the 2 that doesn't is at 85. That was that previous Houston game. He's basically got 1 non-elite game in the last 5. Like, the wheels are not just not falling off. The wagon is actually getting sturdier and more robust as the season goes.
Yeah, the one complaint is the way he's taken sacks. He took a bunch against the Saints the other day, but as far as throwing the football, he's been just outstanding. I mean, just in that game the other day, when they're down, and this is where Tannehill was lacking a lot with the Dolphins, right? It's like the game gets out of hand, you're down 10, you need to make a comeback, it's a must-pass situation, and Tannehill wasn't really the best, situational football-wise, red zone or fourth quarter comebacks, whatever it is. When they needed him the other day, drops a diamond to A.J. Brown down the field. He has that beautiful red zone touchdown where he scrambles out. It's a really tight window. He zips it in there. He'll pick up 10 with his legs on the ground when he needs to, and actually dropped a beautiful pass into Corey Davis that could have been a spectacular big play, and Davis just couldn't haul it in bounds. So, yeah, look, the Hall of Famer can't do everything every single time.
Like catch the ball.
Yeah, whatever. Maybe he's losing a little Hall of Fame luster, but
it's starting to look less likely, yeah.
Ryan Tannehill is doing so many of those things that he couldn't before, which means, look, Tennessee can win these shootouts. I mean, I think they've got a legit shot here, and especially against the Texans team, that overall the secondary outside of a few games has been pretty much a disaster.
So we have both gone with Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm riding the Tannehill train, and I think he's gonna be tough to stop in the playoff.
God, you have actually overhauled me in the picks. I've had such a stinking run down the stretch that you've actually overtaken me.
I'm up 2, I think, on you, right?
You are, yeah. I'm only 5 clear of Austin. That's how bad my run-in has been.
Austin finishing strong.
Well, no, I wouldn't go that far. I think it's more that I'm collapsing down the stretch.
Oh, that's fair. That's what you do.
Yeah, certainly
We're
year.
both taking the Titans here, which means we're expecting no fun playoff scenarios here.
Well, yeah, it's certainly that already nixes the Raiders, right?
And it would the Steelers. So
yes, yeah. So
we're both taking the Titans to grab the last wild card.
Yes, but if we were wrong,
right?
Let's talk about the Steelers.
Here's what the Steelers need. Essentially, they need to win and have Tennessee lose.
Yes,
or tie, and that's where you've got the other quirky stuff, right? Pittsburgh could also get in if they tie and the Titans lose, or if Tennessee loses and the Colts win and the Raiders lose or tie. This is just bad. This is bad podcasting. Reading scenarios. Or if Tennessee loses and the Colts win and Pittsburgh ties, they beat Oakland in strength of victory tiebreaker.
I think we should, for the sake of sanity, suggest that every scenario that requires a tie is not going to happen.
Okay, we'll just forget the tie stuff.
Yeah.
Long story short, Pittsburgh needs to win and Tennessee needs to lose.
They need to win a game in which the 2 starting quarterbacks are Duck and RG3.
Oh, yeah.
Going up against 2 good defenses. Now, even if the Ravens rest a whole bunch of people, their defense is probably still going to be good, particularly going up against the Duck. And by the way, at this point, I don't think the Steelers have any alternate options. Like, last week it was Duck got himself benched, Rudolph came in, he got hurt, Duck came back. Rudolph's still hurt, so it's Duck or nothing, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And Duck, he was okay in some other games, made a few big throws. He was very bad against the Buffalo Bills. And, I think he just kind of is what he is. But they've won games with him, despite his 48.7 PFF grade right now.
Yeah.
They've won games with him playing just meh because the defense could dominate. I'm really interested to see RG3, and I know he won't have the entire supporting cast that Lamar Jackson had, but you can't, it's the NFL, you can't bench everybody. There's only so many roster spots, so some guys have to play. RG3 running this Baltimore offense, will we see glimpses of what RG3 could have been if he was in this nice system beyond just his rookie season? I think that, and it's going up against a pretty good Pittsburgh defense. I think that'll be one of the interesting storylines, because I don't know that it's not just Baltimore rolling over. RG3 is still talented. They still have a lot of talent on offense and a good offensive system. This is a tough game for the Steelers.
Yeah, he is talented, and it is intriguing seeing him run this offense in particular because, obviously it's a significant part of what's going on with Lamar Jackson's MVP caliber season. The really interesting thing about it will be who on the offensive line sits down. They've already talked about resting. I think Marshall Yanda is definitely being rested. He's one of the guys that they announced is not going to play. But if they rest anybody else in that offensive line, if they go into this game with 4 of the 5 offensive linemen still intact, then I think it does become kind of interesting for RG3 because, when you've watched him play in the preseason or whatever since, he's not the same guy physically. He just doesn't look anything like as athletic as he used to. But this is a kind of offense that can paper over some of that and still make him, intriguing. That I'm curious to see how it'll go. Given the Steelers have, one of the best defenses in the NFL, I don't think it'll go well, but it's certainly intriguing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that they'll use him in the design run game as much as they have with Lamar, but they still can, they use motion, they use play action, they use all these different ways to create big play opportunities. Got some of those speed guys on the outside to get the ball down the field, the tight ends in the middle of the field. So it's like a data point. Well, RG3.
The other
Maybe
thing
not
is
a significant one, but it's one.
Yeah, the other thing is that Trace McSorley might see some time, and he's a guy that I think you might genuinely run the exact same offense in terms of design runs and all that kind of stuff. Like, obviously, True. McSorley isn't Lamar Jackson in terms of what he can do with the ball in his hands, but I think you have less innate fear that he's going to snap himself in half the way you do with RG3 when you send him on a design run.
Yeah, and honestly, the talk this whole offseason is going to be about, hey, our team's it's a copycat league. Our team's going to try to copy what the Ravens did with Lamar Jackson. And it's like, look, they've got a guy with wide receiver type of after the catch ability who could also throw the ball accurately. Is that okay? Is that okay to say?
Yeah.
There's not too many people who can run the ball like Lamar Jackson. And his improvement as a passer has made him essentially the MVP of the league. That's why he's special. I don't think that has proven that, hey, Jalen Hurts is going to be an MVP candidate, right? Or that, somebody's going to trade for Trace McSorley because he's got this skill set that's like Lamar light. I think Lamar's just that unique. But if Trace McSorley gets out there and puts together some pretty good plays and all that stuff, I think it gets the wheels turning even more for teams around the league.
Right.
Maybe a team like the Chargers or whoever, like our teams that have to think outside the box as they look for their next quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. What I think it should do, though, is make the door as wide for spectacular college athletes or college quarterbacks that don't fit into a traditional NFL mold in terms of their projection to the next level, right? So when you get a guy that's doing incredible things at the college level, but it's predicated off a lot of rushing and all this kind of stuff, it's not as easy to dismiss anymore because you go, well, okay, but look, we've got Lamar here who the story was much the same. He had limitations as a passing quarterback. Now he's improved that, which is why he's an MVP candidate as opposed to just a quality starter. But the whole point is you had a guy who did it differently, was hugely based off athleticism, and in the past, well, even now, was written off to the point where he was drafted 32nd instead of first, right? Now you can look at these guys and say, well, okay, there's a legitimate way that they can succeed, and not just succeed, but become MVP candidates if the offensive system is good enough.
Yeah, I mean, it'll definitely open up, I think, some more opportunities. And, again, this will be interesting to see if, what RG3 and or McSorley can do here. Pittsburgh essentially needs, I think, their best efforts defensively. We've talked a little bit about all their pass rush. Javon Hargrave, 1 pressure away from 50. Your boy Bud is still 2 pressures away to be, we don't see that often. 4 teams that have guys getting after the quarterback with over 50 pressures apiece. Micah Fitzpatrick, what he's done since coming over on the back end, 87.4 coverage grade this year, making some big plays. So they need all of those guys to have their best game, essentially, and then, hope that Tennessee loses, have a shot to sneak into the playoffs.
And I think on their offensive side of the ball, they basically need Duck, A, to not make a huge costly mistake, and B, to start giving those receivers a chance to make plays, whether it's Deontay Johnson, James Washington, Juju's back now. They have playmakers that have shown all the way through the season, if you give them a shot, they can make some plays, but you actually need to, put the ball in the air.
No, that's a good point too. They're capable there, and I think that's one of the intriguing stories for the Steelers going forward is they have intriguing young receivers, and I feel like they might be one of those, hey, add one more big name there or big playmaker there at receiver, and they could be dangerous once again on offense next year, especially if Big Ben's returning. So I like the Steelers because they're playing for something, and I think, when it comes down to it, it is tough. It's tough if you're the Ravens. Are they going to go for it on 4th down? Are they going to exhaust every edge that they usually exhaust in a game that really doesn't matter for them? I think that's why I like Pittsburgh in this one. Yeah,
I think the Steelers defense will just be too good against backups, essentially, even if it's not all of them. And the other thing is, I really don't love this offense if RG3 is running it. I actually like it, I think, maybe better if Trace McSorley is running it, but RG3 against the defense is going to be getting a ton of pressure, I think, is a bad story waiting to happen.
True. So we're both taking Pittsburgh.
Yep.
We don't think they'll get into the playoffs because we both think Tennessee will win.
Correct.
But the other team, expecting, praying for a miracle here, is the Raiders, right?
Yes.
So they need the Titans to lose and Pittsburgh to lose, essentially. They also need the Colts to win. And that's what, against Jacksonville, is that right? Yeah. So they need the Colts to win. So they need, Oakland needs to win, and then they need the Titans to lose, the Steelers to lose, their two competitors there, and they also need Indy to beat the Jaguars, because that would give Oakland the strength of victory tiebreaker. We would be to this, down the road tiebreaker, strength of victory over the Steelers if all that scenario happened.
Yeah, because essentially the only way they get in... Yeah, the only way they get in is by forcing a multi-team tie where the tiebreaker ends up getting, bumped down the list.
Right, because they would be 8-8.
Yeah.
And Pittsburgh would be 8-8.
Yeah.
And
Titans. And the Titans would be 8-8.
Titans would be 8-8.
Yeah, they have to force a three-way tie, at which point head-to-head is irrelevant. You have to go further down the list of tiebreakers. What I think would be the most Raiders thing ever is if all of the things they needed to happen happened and then they lost to Denver.
They lose to Denver.
Which is not crazy.
Timing-wise, again, all these games are happening at the same time. They're all going to happen at 4:25.
Right.
Start time, so you can't, wait and see or know or anything like that. It's all happening at the same time. That would be incredible if all the other stuff happens and then the Raiders blow it at Denver.
Yeah, they won't know until the end, but I could easily see that happening. Those other three games breaking their way, and then the Raiders just incapable of beating the Denver Broncos. Drew Lock out duels Derek Carr.
I just changed my pick to Oakland. Initially, I went to Denver, but because I've for 15 weeks now, been saying Denver, they're a 6-win team. I have to stick with that, right? They're 6-9. I'm expecting them to sit at 6 wins because that's what I said that they are.
I've gone with Denver. I think there's a very real chance that happens. Now, I don't think it matters because I've also gone with Tennessee, but I can see the Broncos beating them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's why I said it initially. Denver's always tough to beat at home, and Drew Lock has been solid outside of that snow game. And what I'm interested in here with Lock is, it's not like he's attacking down the field at an incredible rate as far as pure average depth of target or anything like that. But we've seen him give some of those playmakers opportunities to make plays. And we've seen a Denver team where it's like, hey, they don't have a ton of guys to throw to. So all of a sudden you've got guys like, rookie tight end Noah Fant was making big plays for Lock, and Cortland Sutton continues to produce. And there's a little bit of life in that Denver passing attack with Lock, at least, pushing the ball down the field a little bit more than, say, Joe Flacco or Brandon Allen did. Have
you seen the video that came up on social media of the Raiders' new stadium?
Yeah, it looks incredible.
Right? So I was there in the summer in Vegas, and it was just sort of a skeleton of a stadium at that point. It was already looking pretty cool. Now that it's being clad in black, tinted windows or whatever for the desert heat, that thing is going to look pretty badass. It may be crazy and, Oakland is kind of getting hosed, but that thing is going to look pretty freaking cool when it's all decked out. It's all Raiders in Vegas.
It does looks great. It does
just
look incredible.
A skip across the strip from Mandalay Bay. We need to find a way of getting a trip financed out there so we can be there. Maybe we can podcast live from the atrium or whatever they have.
Yeah, let's see. Does anybody want to do a live show with us? If we can get a couple hundred people to pay for some tickets for a live show.
Yeah, in Vegas.
In Vegas. Let's just throw it out there right now. Are our listeners ready for the PFF NFL Podcast tour? Do we have enough in some cities, maybe at the Super Bowl, maybe at the Combine in Indianapolis, maybe training camp? Do we have enough to do some live shows?
I'm thinking live show from the beach at Mandalay Bay. Then later that evening, we go across to the game. Someone will get us some, we got to get some Skybox tickets or something. Chris can swing that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that feels like a good way of spending some company funds.
We just need a few hundreds or thousands of people to step up,
right.
Let us know on Twitter and say, look, we're in. Whether it's the Vegas idea or come to my city, whatever it is. Maybe in Cincinnati. Maybe we start locally.
We could definitely start small just to make sure this thing is going to work.
Right?
Before we commit.
Podcast that, they're doing this live show bit and they're going on, on tour, so to speak. And I think we're ready. I think we can do it. Well,
yeah. Certainly before we commit to the Mandalay Bay Beach Party and the Raiders Stadium, debut, we should probably make sure we can get 5 people to Cincinnati first.
We'll start small. But hashtag let us know. Before we get to the NFC, any other thoughts? Raiders, Broncos, do you think the Raiders... You said you like Denver in this one.
I do. I think Denver isn't actually that bad of a team now. They've got a quarterback that can at least, show up and make some things happen. I think they've got talent on both sides of the ball. They've got some playmakers. The Raiders have kind of become what we talked about them being right at the start of the season, which is a fairly depressing outlook with just a couple of surprise names like Darren Waller becoming only the, 22nd tight end in NFL history to top 1,000 yards. Like the discovery of Darren Waller is basically the story of the Raiders season in 2019, which in and of itself speaks volumes, I think, of the rest of things. Like, he's become a really good player, but the fact that that's the thing that would be held up as what this season meant is vaguely depressing.
Yeah, they need a little bit more from their actual draft picks and all that stuff. I think on Denver's side, you've got really good performances from Justin Simmons at safety, Alexander Johnson, who again is another just crazy story, who emerged as one of the best linebackers this season. When you look back at this year for Denver, I think you're going to say, hey, look, we have some intriguing playmakers on the defensive side of the ball, some emerging playmakers on the offensive side, and a quarterback who I don't want to overrate what Drew Lock has done before. He hasn't graded well, and even in the games where the stats were good, he hasn't graded all that well. But similar to Daniel Jones, has instilled a little bit of confidence and excitement looking forward for them.
All right,
but I'm going to take Oakland in this one.
I'm going to take Denver.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.